Welcome back to the Prosperous Life Podcast, everyone. This is Braiden Belnap, and this is Alex Marchant.
Yes, that's correct, Marchant.
Awesome. With that in mind, today, I'm so blessed to have you here. Mainly, you're in the business of people. You do a lot of things, but it's all to inspire and impact people.
Absolutely.
And through that, I feel like you're enjoying your journey more.
Oh, yeah.
And if there's anything that we can do to help people today, it's to enjoy the journey a lot more and look forward to the destination, but enjoy the process while helping out everybody along the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate that introduction, and what you're doing here is amazing. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm excited to speak the truth and see if we can inspire people.
Of course. So. Well, welcome to the show. We've been talking about this for a couple months now.
Yeah. Yeah, ever since we met, I feel like even before we actually met in person, we've been talking about getting on. So
exactly.
I'm excited to actually make it happen.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about you. You just got involved with the charity, which I think is right up your alley.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So like you said, I'm involved in the business of people. So like you said, I do a lot, but my biggest, where I thrive the most is helping people and being there for people, inspiring people. I've been through, I would say, a pretty hefty amount in my life and experienced a lot, good and bad. I've experienced really low lows, but I've also experienced really high highs. I feel like I've seen a good amount of success for where I am. I just got involved with this nonprofit organization called Love Hard. Love Hard is an organization that helps with budgetary downfalls for school districts. So Sean, the founder, good buddy of mine now, started it. He had a really, really hard time going through high school and ended up losing his dad while he was in high school. He grew up and as he became an adult, he realized that he was kind of having to go back and cope with these things and recover from these things that he suffered in the past. So he started the organization to basically either catch kids before they go through really traumatic experiences or while they're going through them, because we all know that everyone goes through it. And so it's not a if it happens, to when it happens. And every school district has a plan to basically help these kids get through something as far as like therapy or counseling goes, but they don't necessarily have the resources or the financial ability to be able to pursue that at the highest capacity that they want to. So that's basically where we come in. So we raise money to basically help on the financial end for these schools to be able to get their counselors more training and get more of those resources in the schools for these kids to be able to have. We're also working on some other really cool things to be able to provide for these kids outside of school. But we also partnered with a company called Lift. So Josh Downs, he works with us at Love Hard, but he also has this nonprofit called Lift, where he goes and speaks at assemblies. And in these assemblies, he challenges kids. He works with these kids. He helps them feel a part of a community. But I don't know if you did assemblies when you were in school, but a lot of the time they do these really impactful assemblies, and then they leave and it's like, oh my gosh, this is like amazing. Like I feel good about myself, or I feel bad about myself. Like I need to work on myself. And it's really impactful for a day or two. But then after that first day or two, you go back to your old habits. So what Josh has done, and what I can really get behind, is he gets in contact with these kids after, so follows them on Instagram or communicates through them with text message, basically create that community feel, and connects with the kids where they feel like they're more a part of something, and they have someone that can look out for them. They have someone that is there for them. So yeah, we're working on some really, really cool things.
That's huge.
Yeah, we're not even a year old yet, so we've got a lot that's coming, and we've already done.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said trauma it's not a matter if it will happen, it's a matter of when.
Absolutely.
And it's just a part of life.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of having those skills to overcome them in the 100%. Moment instead of years down the road. And
yeah.
What is this anxiety in me?
Exactly.
What is this depression? Why am I struggling with my relationship so much right now?
Absolutely.
I can go into that.
Yeah. Everyone, like you said, everyone goes through it. It's different for everyone. Each case is definitely different, but everyone goes through it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sounds like you could relate a lot to Sean as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We, so I met him, they were doing an event, and I was actually doing something completely on the side, but I saw their booth set up. And so I went over and I was like, hey, tell me about your foundation and like how it started. And so he told me the story that I just told you. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I can relate to you on a different level, like on a deep level. I was like, I want to partner with you. I want to get in on this. So he's like, wait, yeah, like let's get your number, and we connected, and we're getting moving on it now.
I love that. And if you're open to him, I would love for you to show kind of how you connect with him on a deep level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously I know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I've been through a lot in my life. But I'm glad that I went through a lot of it. I mean, it's unfortunate circumstances of what's happened, but I know that because of it, I can go out and help all these people.
Yeah.
So yeah, as from a young age, I've kind of always have struggled a little bit with my self-image. Never really thought of myself as, I just kind of thought of myself as like average, or like someone that's, I just kind of go day by day. And this is like from a really, really young age. But growing up, I really started to find my purpose in football. Football was something that I really, really started to pursue. And it's what I identified myself as. I identified myself as the kid who plays football, or like when people thought of Alex Marchant, it was, he's the one that plays football. I was never really the best player, but I was also a decent player, and I played for 10 years. And like I said, I made that my identity. When that was something that I learned from the hard way, is that I attach my identities to something physical, something that's not actually me. But yeah, so that kind of gives you the beginning part of it. And we'll come back to where football made a big impact on me. I went through something that was pretty hard. My dad, he was the most supportive dad that you could have ever thought of. He was always there for me. Any ideas I ever had, whether it's like, I always thought of entrepreneurship as like being an inventor. I never thought of it as like owning a business. I always thought of like, you had to like invent a product. And so anytime, like I always wanted to invent something. And so anytime I'd bring one of my inventions to him, he would always like support me on it. He's like, all right, let's figure out how this is done. Like, let's like start getting into the nitty gritty. It was like weird ideas, like putting a TV in a blanket. Like I don't, it was weird ideas, but
that would be pretty cool though.
Yeah. But like, you think about the logic of it. It's like, you have to sit up and you have to look down. It's not going to be comfortable because it's like laying on you. It was a weird idea, but even though it was like way, like just didn't make sense at all, he was always there to be supportive. And we go back to football, and he was super supportive in football. He always grew up playing football and was super involved in it, and involved me at a young age, and was always like going out and playing football with me and everything. And like I said, just the most supportive dad. Was always super giving, giving to charities and making blankets on his wedding reception for hospitals, and just he was always trying to help as much as he could. And that's where I think that I got that. The willingness to help was from him. And then always just taught me like the right manners, to just like opening the door for whoever you're dating, or if you get married, opening the door, and always saying please and thank you, and just simple things like that. He was always trying to teach me to be the best man that I could possibly be. And so I took a lot of that while he was doing that. But when he was young, he was playing with his biological dad. He ended up getting adopted later in his life, but he was playing with his biological dad. His biological dad lifted him up above his head and accidentally dropped him. When he dropped him, he broke his leg. And as he started to grow up and his body started to grow and everything like that, one leg was a little shorter than the other, which caused him severe back pain. He ended up going to the doctor for that severe back pain, and they ended up putting him on medicine. And as we all know, opioids are definitely an addiction. They can become an addiction if you let them. And that's what it unfortunately became for him. It was something where he got addicted to and started taking a lot. And like I was talking to you about earlier, even though his body might not have been feeling the pain, his body wanted the drugs, and so his mind would tell him he's feeling this pain when he's actually not. And so he'd go to these drugs to basically relieve that pain. And one thing led to the next. He ended up getting on harder and harder drugs. And with that, he became an alcoholic and started drinking very heavily. And he got to the point where he couldn't function without his alcohol. He had to be drinking, and if he wasn't, he would go to the hospital from his withdrawals. And he would have to drink to be able to function. So that was something he was always trying to overcome, and he was always trying to overcome his addiction. But growing up my whole life, I had no idea what was going on, because he was really good at kind of keeping that part of his life away from raising me. So I had no idea what was going on. I had like little tiny bits and clips that I saw, but like I explained to you earlier, it's like it really just took over his life, that unfortunate circumstance. Him and my mom ended up getting divorced, and me and him moved into a hotel as split custody. So I was with my mom most of the time, but then every other weekend, and then every Tuesday night I'd go over to his house, or it might have been Wednesday night. But we moved into a hotel for a little bit. After the hotel, he ended up moving again. I think we moved like 8 times within 2 years. He ended up getting involved in all these drugs, or getting involved in drugs, and becoming an alcoholic. But he was really good at keeping that away from me, like I mentioned, keeping that life separate from mine. But the first big thing that happened in my life was when him and my mom got divorced. They're both amazing people, but there was just some times that they struggled, and some sleepless nights that would keep us all up, and just things like that. But they ended up getting divorced. That was the first biggest hit that I felt. And that's kind of, I feel like, when I really started to struggle with my self-image and how I looked at myself and how I viewed myself, and things like that. I saw myself different from a lot of people around me, because a lot of other people around me, their parents were getting along, and their parents were still married, and everything like that. And the unfortunate reality is that now it's a lot more common than it was back then. Yeah. But I felt like I was kind of an outlier, because I didn't have parents that were living together. But yeah, so they got divorced. I was living with my mom most of the time, but every other weekend I would go with my dad, and then every Wednesday night I would also go stay at his house. But he ended up moving into a long-term hotel that he stayed in for a while. So we were living in a hotel for a little bit. He ended up finding his new wife, which was my stepmom, ended up getting married. And then they ended up having their struggles. He was sober for a little bit, and then they ended up splitting. They were still married, but they weren't living together. He ended up moving into a trailer park, so we lived in a motorhome together for a while, and then ended up getting a little bit more back on his feet. He couldn't really keep a job, but he was able to make enough money to be able to get out of that, and ended up buying a condo, or a townhome. Was living in the townhome, was doing pretty well. But then you lead up to the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, and he started to get back into drugs pretty heavily, in and out of the hospital from overdosing. And at first, when he started going to the hospital, I had no idea what was going on. I thought it was health problems. I didn't really realize what was really happening. But getting in and out of the hospital, I ended up having a vulnerable conversation with my mom, and she kind of just told me what was happening and kind of everything that was going on, and basically had to tell me, like, when he's out of the hospital and you go and stay over at his house, if he starts acting different or like acting weird, like, please give me a call. Like, I'll come pick you up, because he's not in like the best state of mind right now. And then June of 2015, he ends up taking his last breath, and unfortunately overdosed on heroin. And that was the biggest impact that I've ever had on my life. I was supposed to go to his house that night. It was a Wednesday night, and so it was his time to have me. And he was at work, and he said he was going to come pick me up after he was done. And usually he would come pick me up like 6 o'clock, or 6 or 7 o'clock, and just waiting for him to come, waiting for a phone call, waiting for a text message. Never ended up having anything that happened. So I ended up going to sleep, and then like 2 a.m, my mom came and woke me up, and she's like, "Hey, like, I need to talk to you." And me being a child wanting to sleep, I was like, "No, like, I don't, like, just let me sleep. Like, we could talk in the morning." And she was like, "No, like, I need to talk to you." So we went upstairs. My grandparents were upstairs, and I knew instantly something was up. And she's like, she basically just sat me down and said, "Your dad's passed away. Like, he some unfortunate circumstances took a hold of him, and he ended up passing away." And my mom is the strongest person I know. I look up to her in a huge way. And through this time that he was going through that, I was struggling I just moved to a new school, was trying to make friends, ended up getting into junior high and lost all the friends that I had. And their excuse was because I didn't have an iPhone and I had an Android, so they couldn't name their group chat. And so I ended up losing all my friends, trying to find new friends, could never really keep stable friends. And so something also that really took a huge toll on like self-image. Really when I started to develop anxiety and depression, which we'll get into a little bit later. Grew up, was still playing football. That was kind of my outlet, was football. To going through all this trauma was football and lifting and just getting all my anger out through that and doing something that my dad really enjoyed. So I guess we'll backtrack a little bit. When he did pass away, I was in a football camp. And the next day after he passed away, we had a football camp. And obviously when stuff like that big happens, you don't want to do anything. You just want to be with family. You just want to like, whatever. Everyone's different. But my mom's like, do what your dad would want you to do. Like he would want you to go to this football camp. So I ended up going to the football camp, and that was my my way of kind of escaping my thoughts for that day. But yeah, so used football as a huge outlet. I started identifying myself as like the kid who played football. And then 2020 comes around, and 2020 was hard for everyone, as we all know. But 2020 ended up coming around. I ended up suffering some pretty big injuries from football. I have 2 bulged discs and arthritis in 3 of my vertebrae, broke my shoulder, and all that kind of stuff added up. I started to get really bad head pains, and I thought it was concussion for the longest time. Ended up figuring out that it was caused from severe anxiety. But I still continued to play football. And then March of 2020, was meeting with my mom to go get a suit for a school dance, and she pulled up and was crying, and I was like, what's going on? And she goes, your Uncle Tracy's passed away. And I was like, oh my gosh, like my dad's passed away, and now my Uncle Tracy's passed away. Also another amazing human being. Like he was always trying to serve people. He was always trying to make people happy around him. And at that time, it was a really, really low time for me. There was thoughts that ran through my head that like, what's my purpose here? Like, why do I need to be here? But yeah, so that 2020 was a hard time. You had COVID that hit. My uncle passed away. I ended up quitting football because of the injuries that I was suffering. But at the same time, my stepdad was working 100 hours a week. My brother just moved to North Carolina. So I felt like I had to kind of be that father figure in the family for my mom and help my mom, be there for my mom. So I ended up quitting football. And like I said, football was my identity. And so I went through an identity crisis after quitting football, trying to find myself again. And that kind of all went down. Went through a big struggle through anxiety. Ended up getting put on medication for anxiety. For anxiety specific, I believe there are some medications that can be good, but for anxiety, I don't agree with medicating for anxiety. I started getting on medication, and it just makes you completely numb to everything. You can't feel happy, you can't feel sad, you can't feel any emotion. You're just numb. You kind of just feel like a robot, like you're going throughout your day. After I started to notice the negative effects from that, I was like, okay, well, I need to solve this within myself and figure out how I can get through this with myself. And so I ended up going off of medication, started the recovery process, and still recovering a lot. And I still get anxiety every single day, but definitely on a path to be better with that. And yeah.
I love that.
So that's my story, and that's how I can relate to Sean.
You should be proud of yourself, man.
Appreciate that.
A lot of people, we were talking about this before. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And I think that's truthfully the biggest issue. Absolutely. Because if we can talk about it openly as we are now, and hopefully they can talk, maybe somebody out there listening to this right now hasn't talked. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And being okay to go talk about it just opens up a world of possibilities. For sure. I noticed then that's I like that you bring up that point, because one of the first biggest steps that I took with my self-development process when I was trying to overcome this was sharing my story, because I didn't want to share my story because I was scared to share my story. I was scared to sound weak. I was scared to get judgment. I was scared for people to say, oh, you're just saying that for attention. Or I would all the possibility, like all the thoughts that everyone has when you go through these struggles, I was having. But once I started to actually share my story, that was the first biggest step. Was first off, I was able to get off my chest what I needed to say, but then in return, I was able to relate to more people. I was able to
help more people in that way. And so, yeah, so I like that you said that.
And people saying like, oh, like I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Oh, my anxiety is normal.
Yep.
My depression is okay to have. It's okay. It's okay to have a bad day once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's just what it comes down to is, you know, hey, this moment I'm having anxiety can it be okay for you to slow down?
Yep.
Recognize that. That way you can move forward more effectively instead of getting caught up in this rut for a long period of time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's amazing that you've gone through that. And I'm sure that through you transforming your life, I'm sure you see how you've transformed your families as a whole as well.
For sure.
Right?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Your energy definitely radiates to other people, especially those that are close to you, those who believe in you and those who love you. When I've taken my journey to elevate myself, it's definitely rippled across my whole family. That's for sure. I've noticed that, my mom's always been someone that's been super healthy. But she's definitely like stepped up that as well, like meal prepping all the time and eating healthy and going to the gym and happy. Like that's super amazing. Then my brother, he is a pilot now, and that's always been his dream, was to always be a pilot. And after he graduated high school, he kind of just fell into this thing, like he kind of like settled, I guess, and that's kind of how he explains it, but ended up deciding that he wanted to go chase his dream as well. And so now he's a pilot. And so, yeah, so it's definitely radiates. Your energy definitely radiates for sure.
It takes one person in a family, in an entire family tree to change everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Just one.
Break the cycle, break the generational cycle. That's one of my goals, is to break that. So
yeah, it's, limiting beliefs. I always teach that kind of basic psychology is you have your beliefs, which come from your past.
Right.
Which create your thoughts, which create your emotions, which creates your behaviors, which creates your results. And a belief of one person of, let's say, they are not enough. An uncle thinks that, oh, I didn't go to war. I couldn't go to war.
Yeah.
I'm not enough. And then their kid comes and they say, hey, you're not enough. And it keeps going and going.
Yep.
Takes one person just to say, hey, I don't believe I'm enough right now, but I'm going to make it so I do feel enough, and I'm going to make sure my kids know that they're enough.
It's so strong. It's so strong. It's really true. Like, it takes one person to be able to basically say like, no, I'm done living a life thinking that I'm not enough. I'm done living this sad story. I'm done saying that this is who I am. It's like a lot of people like to attach their identity. Like I said, I attach my identity to football, and then I attach my identity to my story and what I've been through, and feel bad for me because I went through all this stuff. And a lot of people do that, but it takes one person in the family to say, no, like I'm not attaching myself to my story. I'm not attaching myself to physical objects or to sports or whatever. Like I have this journey and I have a bigger purpose in this life. And one kid or one person in a family, they realize that they have that big purpose and to go chase it. And then it really ripples. And then my kids and then my grandkids, my great grandkids will feel that too.
So I got to ask, who is Alex now?
Alex now, that's a deep question. Dang, I didn't think about this. Like I've never thought about this. I like that you're challenging me in this way.
And I love that you're thinking and taking time to ponder it, because I feel like we're always becoming somebody new.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Every moment. We're becoming something new.
Yep.
So when I ask that, it makes me think about who I am.
Yeah.
It's something that I feel like will always change.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally agree. It's something that will always change for sure. There's been a lot of that recently. You think that you're going to be something, and then you start chasing that dream and you end up branching off to somewhere completely different. And it just changes. Like you're like, I'm someone who's going to chase this dream. And then you start chasing that dream and you're like, oh wait, like this is actually what I want to do. This is a bigger purpose for me. This is, who I actually want to be. But yeah, it's always changing for me constantly.
And I always say is, if you can become more, you can always achieve more.
Yeah.
Kind of like, instead of chasing the destination, enjoy the journey. who do you want to become? Because I think that is a
Yeah.
good question to really ponder and think about.
Yeah.
Because if you can become somebody else, then you can
Absolutely.
achieve something more.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that achieve great success in this world. Nobody's talking about the millionaires that take their own life.
Right. No, not at all. Not at all. And I think that's I think the really valuable part that the listeners can take from this is it's not what do you want to build, like what do you want to do with your life? It's who do you want to be with your life? I feel like those are two separate things, because one's like a materialistic thing and then one's an inner person thing.
Yeah.
So it's not what do you want to do with your life, it's who do you want to become in your life.
Yeah.
Who do you want to help with your life? So
I agree.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. So I talk about purpose a lot.
Yep.
And I fundamentally believe purpose encompasses three things.
Yep, absolutely.
One is what you love, what you're gifted at. I'm a firm believer in God.
Yeah.
I know you are.
I am too as well. Yep.
And I believe that when you love something and you're gifted the natural talent,
Yeah.
that it came from God.
Yeah,
And that there's a way to make an impact.
for sure.
So I know you're really trying to help people, and I believe that did come from your uncle, your dad, and you've brought that forward.
For sure.
Do you have an idea of how you want to make an impact in this world, or is that just kind of in the flow of?
Yeah, I it's definitely for sure in the flow right now. Like I'm taking steps to get to that point to where it's like, this is how I want to help people. But I don't have an exact vision, I guess, if that makes sense. Cause like I said, it's changing constantly right now. I'm trying to figure it out a lot for me. The whole Love Hard Foundation that I got partnered with was something that was completely out of the blue that I just got involved with. And this is now how I'm helping people, or the events that I'm going to start throwing. Like that's how I'm going to start helping people, or the podcast that I'm starting. It's like, that's how I'm going to start helping people. So I guess the answer to that is I want to help people realize who they are. I want them to realize that they have a purpose. I want to help them realize that they mean more to this world than they can imagine. They can make a big impact on this world. They can literally change the world. And just really realize their value that they carry, and there's more for them. God has a purpose for you, and you're not going to find it right away. And I feel like, yeah, like I said, God has a purpose for you. And so that's how I want to help people, is help them realize that they have a purpose and they have a bigger meaning.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you figured out how to essentially transform your anxiety and depression.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean it's gone away.
Absolutely.
You're evolving still.
Yes, absolutely.
But if somebody was like, hey, I have the worst anxiety right now.
Yeah.
Alex, like, what can I do? Where can I start to transform my anxiety?
Yeah, so you have to look within. You're not going to find it from outside resources. So self-development is something that I'm super big on. And so the biggest thing that I can recommend, and it's cliche, but the reason that I'll give you the reason why, and but the biggest thing that I'm a big advocate on is fitness. And so anxiety and depression, it's a sense of basically a fear of something happening and you don't have any control over it. It's a constant thought of like, oh, what if this happens? What if this happens? And it's constantly running through your head. And like I said, you feel like you don't have any control of it, but you're constantly worried about it, but it hasn't happened yet. So what I've started to do is do something that you can take control of that also helps you. And so fitness is something you can do. You can control how you eat. You can control how you exercise. You can control all of these things that make you, first off, look better, make you feel better. And then that it's kind of like the power of one more. It's like you can control what you do. It's taking that extra step to increase yourself. I don't know if you listen to Ed Mylett, but Ed Mylett talks about
he's my favorite person.
Dude, so good.
World.
But it's the power of one more. Like if you're in the gym and you're lifting one more time, you do one more rep at bench, or you run one more mile or one more street down or whatever it is, you can control that, but you can't control the things that you're worried about and anxiety, if that makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense. I love Ed Mylett, and anybody listening to this could be impacted by him. And whether you're in business or
Yeah.
You don't know what you're gonna
Absolutely.
do.
Yeah. Right. So that's the first step that I would say is fitness. You have to get involved in either a gym or go for a run or anything, but get involved in living a healthy lifestyle. That will transform it because you can control that. The next thing is breathing and meditation. I found is super big, and a lot of people don't when I started to explore this, I realized that a lot of people don't believe that like meditation, but believing in like the Christian belief, like they can mix. But I do it and it works for me. And if it doesn't work for you, then that's okay. But so meditation is how I think of it. And a lot of people that talk about meditation don't really explain exactly what it is. They just say, go meditate, go meditate. It's like, well, what is meditation? Like I can go listen to meditation music, but what am I supposed to do? This is one of the biggest things that I've found has helped me with my anxiety. I sit down and I let my mind wander, but then I try to bring my thoughts back to center and just focus on my breath. Breathing in 4 counts, holding 4 counts, breathing out 4 counts, holding for 4 counts at the bottom. You can control your breathing. That's another thing. So you're taking control of something you can control. Your thoughts you may not be able to control as well, or as well as you would like them to. At the beginning, it might be really hard to bring them back to center. Your mind might wander a lot, but if you're trying to concentrate on your breath and try to bring your thoughts back to your breath, you'll get better and better at it every time you try. So fitness and lifestyle, or fitness and health is the number one thing. The number 2 thing that I've found is meditation, trying to bring your thoughts back to center, because if you can control your thoughts then, it's a lot easier to control your thoughts when you're out and about. And then the third one goes along with meditation, but it's just breathing. So whenever I feel anxiety coming on, I do the 4 count breath. You can do it anywhere you want. You can do it out in public. You can do it anywhere. And if you're scared to like have someone notice that you're doing something, you don't want to be like recognized, breathing is a perfect thing to do, because you're just breathing and no one's going to be like, what the heck is that guy doing? So like I was talking about, anxiety is the sense of basically not having control of a situation and you're scared of what the outcome is going to be. And you have these thoughts that are constantly running through your head and you don't feel like you can control these thoughts, but they're just taking over. Your breaths get shorter, things like that. So the first is fitness and health, taking care of what you eat and taking care of your body. It's something you can control. And everyone knows that it's good for you to work out. All the scientific research behind it and everything, it reduces anxiety. And so, and that's always been kind of my release. Like I was talking about, football was always my release to go. When I was feeling anxiety or depression, I would go play football, or I'd go train for football or whatever. So I've always had fitness as kind of that outlet. After I quit football, it started turning into lifting. So going to the gym, and lifting and running and those kinds of things. And then you get into meditation, just trying to bring your thoughts back to center, bringing it back to your breath. And whenever they wander out, kind of let it wander out a little bit, but then try to bring it back to your breath, and doing that 4 count square breathing. So 4 in, 4 pause, 4 down, 4 pause at the bottom, and then just doing multiple rounds of that. Then you get into breathing. What you can do at any point in the day is your square breathing: 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 pause. And then I usually like to do 10 reps of that, and then my heart rate's down, my breathing is back to normal. And I feel a lot more centered with where I am. Also, something I started to notice a lot when I was feeling anxiety, I start to pay attention to my breath. My breaths were super short. So they're like just fast, like in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And so when you're able to take control of that breath, it helps take control of your mind as well. And then it also slows your heart rate down, because when you get anxiety, your heart rate starts to speed up. So it slows your heart rate down. The other thing is just gratitude, showing gratitude for those who are around you, showing gratitude for yourself, just telling yourself what you're thankful for, telling yourself what things you're excited to be a part of. And then also telling other people around you that you're grateful for them. Reaching out to people and just saying, hey, like, I'm thinking about you. Just different things like that, helping people. But I believe a lot of people, when they're feeling anxiety and depression, their immediate thing is to go help people because it gets their mind off themselves. But I feel like you're doing yourself and that person a disservice because you haven't taken care of what's inside first. Once you take care of what's inside, you can then in turn give more value to the people you're helping. So that's what I would say for anxiety, to help get through it, is fix what's inside first before you go out and help all these other people.
I love that. Yeah. And I love that you mentioned you have to help yourself before you can help someone. Absolutely. I talk about there's I believe 7 steps living a prosperous life, and that's what we're here for.
I love it.
The last one is impact.
Yep.
And subtopic of that is put you first.
Yep.
If you can't be 100%, you just can't be 100% for anyone else.
I love it.
And it's just, if you're 100% for yourself, think of how much more you could show for your kids or your spouse or that stranger on the street that's having anxiety and doesn't know who to talk to about it.
Right.
And then you come along and you've dealt with your internal dialogue and now you just helped a stranger that you didn't know. And
I love it.
That stranger could have been planning to take his own life, but since you took the time to hear him, it changed his entire perspective and saw that he mattered. 100%.
100%. Yeah, dude, it's a lot more common than you think. The thoughts that go through people's heads of like, why am I here? What's the point of me being here? What would happen if I did take my life? It's a lot more common. You need to be there for people. Going back to dealing with anxiety, those are the things that I use, the 4 things that I use to help me in the moment, like immediately.
So 4 things.
So health and fitness. The second thing is meditation, breath, and then showing gratitude to yourself and others. A big reason why people don't feel like they belong here is because they don't feel like they have that purpose. They don't feel like they have something that's bigger than them that they're helping out. So something that I've started to do, and what everyone else needs to do, is find community, find somewhere where you belong, find somewhere where people are supportive for you, find something that helps get you closer to your purpose. Everyone's purpose is different, but through the process of self-development, people feel depressed because they don't feel belonging. They don't feel like they have a purpose, like I mentioned earlier. And so being able to find that is what's really going to switch that around for you.
I love that. So, purpose is crucial. As you said, if you don't feel purpose, then it's like, why should I get up in the morning?
Exactly.
Why should I work out?
Yep.
Why should I go meditate? I don't have a purpose here.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that goes into it. Anxiety is a matter of the questions that you're asking yourself.
Yep.
I believe, as obviously a life coach, that the quality of life that you live is based upon the quality of questions.
For sure.
If you have anxiety, it's generally going to be started off as a question. Why do I look so bad?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would I be able to impact anybody?
Yeah, exactly.
Why would I be able to coach? Why would I have a purpose when I've done nothing with my life so far? Well, change the question, change your narrative, right? Instead of what if I can impact somebody, change it to what if I could impact anybody?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I really like that you brought that up. The way that you formulate how you say things is super, super strong. I believe in the law of attraction, and what you put out there is what's also going to be received back. And so if you put out there limited beliefs, then you're going to receive limited outcomes. But if you put out there, like, I can achieve these big things, and you're going to achieve those big things.
Do you listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza?
I do a little bit. Yeah. Not a whole lot. I've listened to podcasts he's been on, but I don't listen to him like directly or specifically, if that makes sense.
I kind of bring the law of attraction, anxiety, achievement, everything back to a topic that obviously you can hear from anybody. I just think he's a master of it because he talks about law of attraction, meditation, so on and so forth. He talks that everything happens internally. So kind of we talked earlier, if you can become more, you can achieve more.
Yep.
If you can internally in your internal dialogue master that, overcome your anxiety, depression, and not that you never experience it again, just that you have more control over it through meditation, breath work, fitness.
Absolutely.
When you become more internally, the external will come.
Yep. Absolutely.
But it's not a matter of sitting there. I will be a millionaire. I will be
right. It's like you can't just say it and then expect it to come. Like, you have to actually take action on your thoughts as well. And I hear this saying all the time, and I'm sure you've heard it too, but it's like, if you buy a car or someone you know buys a car, you've never seen this car. Like, you don't really notice this car all the time, but the second they buy it, you start to notice it everywhere. It's the exact same thing with everything else in life. When you start to set your mind to something, you'll start to see opportunities that will lead up to what you're trying to chase. And so that's something that I've really, really done. And it kind of goes in with manifesting. So law of attraction and manifestation is something that I also really believe in. And it's just like when you manifest something, it's setting your mind to reaching these certain things, and you'll start to notice these opportunities that will lead up to it. And I've gotten a lot out of manifestation.
I love that. And ultimately, a way I look at it too is, how are you showing up today? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
Because that's what manifestation is. And that's why Joe Dispenza, I think, sets him apart, is look at the future, mm-hmm. but it's not putting your future on a pedestal. Yeah. It's not putting your future self on a pedestal. Mm-hmm. It's looking at those things and saying, hey, the person I am right now is enough for these things. Yep. So if you want to, let's say, I don't know, start a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
How would you show up as if you were a podcast today? Mm-hmm. If you owned a podcast and you were doing a podcast on a weekly basis, how would you show up today?
Absolutely.
And as you, again, show up as that person that already has that mm-hmm. objective, you'll get it so much quicker.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's for sure. Yeah. You got it down. Love it.
Manifestation is a tricky thing. I don't think I have it quite all the way down.
Yeah, but it's definitely tricky, and everyone has their different ways they manifest. And like there's people that meditate and manifest. There's people that write down, manifest, like having a vision board. I know you do vision boards. Yeah. I do vision boards as well, and it's something that I've recently got into. But manifestation is like having that vision board. You put on your vision board what you want in your life, and basically the actions that you're going to take to get to those things, physical or emotional or mental or whatever it is. You put on that vision board what you want, the steps you're going to take to get there, and that's manifesting that. And you will achieve it as long as you're taking those steps to get there.
100%.
So everyone manifests in a different way, but it's
your way?
Works. I'm not a huge writer, but sometimes I will write. The first thing is, it's honestly just like telling myself I want it. Like if there's something I see, I say, I want that, I'm going to get it, and making that promise to myself. So basically if I look at something, like say there's a house that I want, I say, I want that house, I'm all in. So the second I say I'm all in, that's me taking that first promise to myself to get there. To get to that thing. So that's how I do it. It's just it's through internal again. Cool. But then also through vision boards. Like I said, I do a vision board on my phone. I don't have one in my room, but I have one on my phone. I can scroll through and kind of see what I want in my life. Vision boards change all the time though. You know that too. Like your vision board isn't going to stay the same. It's going to change. So the first one is being a homeowner. The second one is making as much money as I possibly can. Money is freedom. It is unfortunate that money is what the world revolves around, but it is. Yeah, and so money is freedom. So making as much money as I can, helping as much people as I possibly can. You have all the physical things like the cars and the houses and the money and those kinds of things. And those are things that are on my vision board that I'm all in on. Like I want these things, but then it's also creating the best version of myself that I can. So waking up every day and what can I do to be the best version? Some days aren't as good as other days. Some days I'm lazy with certain things, or some days I don't execute something to my full potential that I knew I could have. But having that intention to do that will make you leaps and bounds ahead of where you would have been if you didn't even have that intention in the first place. So I have those things, and then healthy relationships is something I'm all in on. I don't believe that you have to fight in a relationship. A lot of people say, you're in relationships, you're going to fight. I don't believe that. I think that you can have disagreements and you can work through your disagreements, but I don't think that you have to fight.
I love that. You've really accomplished a lot. And I love that. One thing that I actually really love about you is that, again, the whole entrepreneurship. Yeah. I'm going to say entrepreneurship because this is a personal opinion of mine that I think is very false.
Okay.
A lot of entrepreneurs out there act as if they are perfect. Yeah. They are working 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. They're showing up 100% of the time. They're never lazy. They're doing everything perfect. Yeah. And I believe it causes a false narrative.
Absolutely.
That they're not achieving. Mm-hmm. But the people that are down here and they're up here, these people are putting them on a pedestal. Mm-hmm. So I 100%. Appreciate you. You're a hard worker. You're accomplishing a lot. You're being an entrepreneur. You're growing at an excessive rate, which is phenomenal. But you're okay to admit that, hey,
I'm not perfect.
I'm not perfect, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what the world needs, and there's definitely a lack of that. And like you say, a lot of these people that are successful financially say they're successful in all these other places. Like, oh, they have the perfect life, they have the perfect relationship, they have the perfect car. But I know from chasing what I've chased and meeting these people, a lot of times, especially like there's some coaches that people know of that they say, oh, I'm doing this and this and this, or this is the perfect morning routine, and I do this every night and I do this every morning, and this is how you should go about this in your day. They do maybe 10% of that. There's some amazing coaches like you that do exactly what they say, or 90% of the time you do what you say. A lot of these coaches that say there's this perfect morning routine or there's this perfect thing to do, it's bullcrap. They don't. Like they don't follow what they say a lot of the time.
Myself has a couple of core things that I definitely stick to in the morning and I definitely stick to at night.
Right.
The other things is more extra, right? The extra things are things that I don't do. For instance, a couple things that are non-negotiables for me in my morning: a cold shower. Yeah. For at least 3 minutes minimum. Yep. This goes back to anxiety. This is one thing that has really helped me. Bro.
I love it. I love that you're getting into this. I want to get into this too.
2 is meditation every single morning. 3, looking at my vision board. 4 is I at least write 1 journal prompt page every single morning. Outside of that, if I want to go on a walk or I want to do anything extra than that, that's fine. Obviously, if I did it every morning, that would be better. But let's be honest, I'm busy. Yeah. Everybody gets busy. For sure. But I would suggest just have a couple of core things that you do every morning and night. Yeah. And be happy to do them. Don't make them a chore. Yeah. Be excited to do them.
Yeah, so I like that you say that, and same with me. Like I have core things that I like to do, but not every time they get done. Not every morning they get done. Just being vulnerable. They're 100%. I have a morning routine, but not every morning it gets done. Actually, recently I've been falling off of it, so I need to get back onto it. But when you say cold showers is something with anxiety, I totally agree. And putting yourself in situations that your body wants to get out of immediately, but this also comes back to controlling something you can control. You can control your body and say, this is okay. Like, stop freaking out. This cold water is fine. It's not going to kill you. Just sit with it, enjoy it. The first time you get in it sucks. Second time you get in it sucks. It will never stop sucking, but you get better at coping with it. And so, I love cold showers. One of my biggest things is cold plunging. I love to cold plunge. Whether that's just in your bathtub or you actually have a cold plunge or you set up like a horse trough or whatever. Jumping into it, bad. Dude, it's so awesome.
Do you have one?
So we have one at our office that I use a lot, but they're amazing. But being able to jump in and again bringing your breath back, because when you jump into cold water, you're like, you start breathing really heavy and you're like, oh my gosh, but being able to bring your breath back to center, controlling your breath, and then bringing your thoughts out of the pain just to your breath again is super strong. So putting yourself in situations like that where you would want to escape it, but you know it's good for you, and pushing yourself through that is something that will, first off, help with anxiety because you're controlling that. Yeah. And then second off, will help with confidence, because the best way to build confidence is when you promise something to yourself, to keep that promise and execute it. So if you say, I'm going to jump in this cold plunge, I'm going to sit in here for 3 minutes, and you complete that, then you did it. If you say, I'm going to wake up at 6:30 and you wake up at 6:30, then you did it.
And the power of one more.
Yeah, and the power of one more as well.
When you're in the cold plunge, if you say a minute, do a minute in 5 seconds even. Yeah. Just do one.
Yeah, absolutely. If the biggest thing I would say for someone that's going through or they don't have good confidence with themselves is, in the morning, do not snooze your alarm, because the very first thing you do when you wake up for your day is snooze your alarm. You broke your first promise to yourself, because at night you promise yourself you're going to wake up at 6:30 in the morning, and you wake up and you press the snooze button. You broke your first promise to yourself. The rest of your day is going to kind of continue that cycle. But if you wake up when your alarm goes, then you made that first promise to yourself, you kept it with yourself. Then the second one is, I'm going to make my bed, you make your bed, and you keep that promise to yourself, then you do that. I'm going to brush my teeth, you brush your teeth. And then that starts to create this cycle and this pattern and this flow state throughout the rest of your day where you keep going. So the biggest thing, if you're struggling with confidence, don't snooze your alarm in the morning. Wake up when your alarm goes off.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
That alone would transfer somebody's life.
Absolutely.
And if your promise is, if you're waking up at 9 and you feel like you need to get better, just start at 8:45, then 8:30, and then just incremental habits. Have you ever read Atomic Habits?
Atomic Habits, that's where I get that from.
Okay, I love that, because it's, again, starting where you're at. Being okay with where you're at and scaling forward. Let's say that entrepreneur that's perfect and does everything that they say.
Yeah, which they don't.
We all know it's bullcrap.
Yeah.
Just see where you're at.
Yeah.
Stop comparing. Don't put them on a pedestal. See them as a way.
Yeah.
If you see somebody, like I see things that characteristics that I want to encompass more in my life from you, instead of putting you on a pedestal, it's looking at it as a way too.
Yeah.
So be okay with where you're at and set your goal.
100%. To go along with that too, when you put these people on pedestals, because I've had these people where I've put them on pedestals.
Yeah.
And I set it on my vision board, or I manifest I'm going to meet this person one day, and I do meet this person. I've had multiple instances of that. You start to get to know this person more, and I forget what it's called, but it's basically you get to know them, and you used to look up to them as a leader, but you get to know them, and then you start to not look at them as a leader because you actually know who exactly they are. And you're like, well, you don't do anything you say that you're going to do, or that you don't do, like, half the stuff you say you do, you don't. You promise all these things, but you don't keep your promises. And you put these people on pedestals and you get to know them, and you're like, you're the same as me. If not, you're at the same level that I am. Have found this success, and a lot of people find success through lie. And, but that's kind of the narrative I'm trying to change, is like, I want to be someone where people look up to, as like a mentor, but I'm on the same level as you because I can relate to you. I've been through that stuff. But yeah, you can't put these people on a pedestal, because I've had a lot of instances, like I said, that I've looked up to someone a lot, put them on a pedestal, I meet them, and I'm completely let down because I'm like, you aren't at all what you say you are.
That's so funny you say that. Through this entrepreneurship journey of mine, I've met people, I'm like, like we're all talking like average people to entrepreneurs, whatever. We're all the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
The person that's succeeded in an entrepreneurship company or whatever they're doing really is just a person.
Yeah, one of the biggest differences is that they had an idea and they chased it. They were willing to jump. They were willing to take that step, and they were willing to jump. That's the biggest.
I know. You just made me aware of why I love Ed Milet so much, because he is so vulnerable.
Yeah.
He'll literally talk that he misses some of his workouts that he plans sometimes, and he does these things like he doesn't act like he's perfect.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we've talked about anxiety, depression, mental health. We've talked about business, entrepreneurships.
Right.
Entrepreneurship,
yeah. Tongue twister a little bit, yeah.
We've talked a lot. To go off that, my business teacher used to say, if you can't spell entrepreneur, you can't be one.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that's funny.
I've struggled with that one.
Dude, I thank God for autocorrect on iPhone, because I wouldn't be able to spell it, that's for sure. That's funny.
That's funny. That's good. I don't know why they called it that, but whatever. What if there was one last thing? Because it sounds like you brought a lot of characters from your dad.
Yeah.
Being helpful. I don't know. Do you think he struggled with mental health?
Absolutely. 100%.
If there was one last thing that you could tell your dad, he was in this room with us, what would it be?
I've thought about this a lot throughout the years, and I've got it a lot, and my answers changed over the years. I think now, honestly, what I would say is he was so worried about taking care of other people, which is amazing, that he didn't focus as much on himself. And he did go to rehab a lot, and he did take these steps, but I feel like what I would tell him is, I'm good. I can take care of myself, Dad. I need you to take care of yourself. I need you to focus on yourself. And whatever I can do to help you is what I'm here for. I think that speaks to everyone. It's like, take care of yourself. You really need to take care of yourself. And then you'll get to the point to where you can take care of other people as well. but you really need to start off by taking care of yourself first. But yeah, if my dad was still here, that's what I would say, is take care of yourself.
I love that. So for yourself, you mentioned putting yourself 100% before you go out and help others. Do you feel like you've been able to master that yourself?
Definitely not 100%. And I don't think anyone can get to that 100% being vulnerable. I don't want to say that in a discouraging way at all, but I'm saying it more in as like, let's relate here. I don't think anyone can get 100% to overcoming those things. Like I said, I still feel anxiety and I still feel depression, but I do feel like I have gotten really good at being able to, like I use the words becoming the center. When I do feel depression, when I do feel anxiety, when I do feel down about these certain things, or I feel a lack of confidence, I feel like I've mastered being able to bring myself back to center and being able to work on those weak points, if that helps answer your question.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So whenever you recognize you're having anxiety, depression, you bring it back to center.
Yeah.
And that's, I assume you're the center. So you do what you feel is best for yourself.
Absolutely.
In the moment, or today was a hard day, so tomorrow I'm going to give myself an hour to do as I need to take care of myself.
Absolutely. So, and I think a big part of that too is overcoming anxiety is understanding what anxiety is, because I've had anxiety a lot of my life, but until recently I haven't really totally understood what it was. And so trying to understand what it is will help you understand how to take care of it. And yeah, that's what I would say for that. So,
man, that's powerful. It's, I love that you said understanding it.
You have to,
because it's like, what is this in my body?
Yeah.
Emotion. Tony Robbins always says emotion is motion.
Yeah.
So I do believe every emotion that you feel is really just a calling for you to do something. Is kind of the way I've taken it from his.
Yeah.
His is more, if you're feeling sad, then get up and do a dance or do it. And he's right. It will change your thing.
Yeah, it does.
But for me, it's like, if I'm feeling anxiety, like I'm not enough or I can't create something, really what that anxiety to me is telling me to do is go create that.
Yeah, absolutely. Go take action on it. And 100%. Don't just sit.
If you don't understand the emotion, how can you transform it?
Yeah, exactly.
You can go do a dance, but it's going to come back to you 5 minutes after that.
Yeah. I love that. I'd like to talk about this a little bit. And understanding it. A lot of people are like, well, how do I understand what anxiety is or what my anxiety is? And honestly, what a lot of people do when they get anxiety is they try to run from it, and they're scared of it and they turn it out. They find outside resources, which I've done. There was a point in my life where I was feeling a lot of anxiety and a lot of that kind of stuff, where a lot of people look back and say, how do you do that? Like, that's crazy. I was working 3 jobs all at the same time. I was doing 75 hard. I had my own company. Like, I was doing all of these things all at the same time. From an outside perspective, it's like, wow, you're doing a lot right now. But to me, it was just me masking that anxiety. I would go do something to mask anxiety. Once I started to realize that that's what I was doing, and wanting to realize what anxiety is, now when I get anxiety, I sit with it. I don't try to chase it. I don't try to run from it. I don't try to mask it. I don't try to do something to get rid of it. I sit with it. I understand what it is. I understand why it's coming. I understand. I try to figure out where the root of it's coming from. I have to think logically, like, okay, first off, this hasn't happened yet. Like, stop worrying about it. You need to stop thinking about what the outcome could be and take control of what you can take control of in that, because you can't control the outcome, but you can control what you can do to be able to get more of an outcome of what you're wanting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's another thing too, is if you feel anxiety, don't run from it. Sit with it, understand what it is. A lot of people are scared to do that because they're scared of themselves.
Yeah.
Sit with it.
I forget I don't even remember the specifics, but there was a study done, and it was with a college, and they said, would you rather, I forget, it was like, would you rather pay us money or would you rather sit with like your thoughts for 15 minutes?
Right.
And people were just so scared of it.
Oh, absolutely. People are so scared of their thoughts.
And it's like, just, if you are, take it slow even. If you're not comfortable sitting in silence, then maybe do a guided meditation.
Right.
That's how you start, or that way it guides you and you're with somebody. They're just your facilitator.
Absolutely.
Go get a coach, a mentor. Go just start to listen to music and start to write instead of being in your head. Like,
right.
There's ways to like increase your okayness being by yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's the thing. I love that you point that out, is that you were taking so much action to mask it, because that's a real thing.
Yeah, everyone does it.
But the moment you're okay being alone is the moment I believe you can accomplish anything.
Absolutely. You're the most, like, in a good way, you're the most dangerous when you're comfortable being alone.
Yeah. I love Jordan Peterson. Do you like Jordan Peterson?
I do like Jordan Peterson.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Everybody that's listening to this,
that's probably
that's what I'm talking to is my buddies, is the people that love Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, for sure.
He says, be a monster.
Yeah.
But be able to control it.
Yeah, absolutely. Be a monster, but know how to control it.
It's that's crucial.
Absolutely.
When you're okay to be by yourself and you're your own best friend and you need nobody, obviously it's nice to have people. That's not what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
But when you can have nobody,
right, you
can be by yourself. You don't need to be lonely because you really enjoy yourself that much.
Right. Right. Dude, that takes me back to when I was going through middle school, and the big lesson that I learned was I have to be best friends with myself, because the people that I'm relying on to bring me happiness aren't always going to be around. And I really learned that when I had a big group of friends, and I went from having a huge group of friends to having 0 friends, and it was just me, myself, and I. And I was always so jealous of these people that have the best friend, because I never had that best friend where it's like you're always talking to them, or like you can always go to their house, you're hanging out with them every day. I never had that, so I was always super envious of that. But yeah, that was a big lesson that I learned. It's like you have to become comfortable with yourself. You have to become comfortable with your thoughts. You have to become your best friend. I like when I talk to people, give them actionable items. And so this is another actionable item that you can take home, all the listeners, and you as well, as doing a dopamine detox for a week. So there's a lot of controversy around if it actually fixes your dopamine levels. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know. But what I do know is it makes you more aware of what your habits are, and it pushes you to be really uncomfortable with your thoughts, because what you do is you take away all your music, you take away all your social media, you only use your phone for text messages and phone calls and anything work related. Any other screen time you take away TV shows. If you're addicted to something, you're taking away all your addictions, everything like that. You do it for a week, and you start to notice like the dumbest things, like you're going to the bathroom and a lot of people pull out the phone and they start scrolling, and it's like now when you go to the bathroom, you go sit down, you have to be with your thoughts, and before you fall asleep, you are scrolling through your phone until you get tired and then you fall asleep. But now you have to lay there, sit with your thoughts, and fall asleep. Or when you wake up in the morning, you start having more of those morning routines. I did that a few months back, and the most productive I've ever been in my whole life. It's crazy.
I love that. It's
so dopamine detox.
Dopamine detox.
Dopamine detox. It was initially started to basically fix your levels, or basically like your levels of dopamine are starting to like get a lot lower, because you have all these stimulants that are stimulating your dopamine, and then you get off of it and it basically gets your dopamine back to its normal level. And that's where the controversy comes in. Like, does it actually fix your dopamine? But what I do know, it makes you conscious about like your habits and your
mindful.
Thoughts.
You're very
more comfortable
mindful
with yourself, and absolutely.
First day or so might be very uncomfortable.
Yeah, but it's so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. Yeah, it's weird for sure.
You're just sitting there. What do I do now?
Yeah,
but it's like you start to think.
You notice a lot of things, and even like when you're in conversations with people, like if you're in a conversation and the conversation goes dead and silent, a lot of times you pull out your phone to like mask that awkward silence that you're having. But it's like when you're going through this dopamine detox, you learn to sit comfortably in those awkward pauses and stuff. So
yeah, and something to kind of go along that is curiosity.
Absolutely.
Right? If you are more curious, whether that's with yourself or with another individual, you'll learn more.
Yep.
So what are all the good things about yourself right now that you don't know?
Right.
I always say that to get to know somebody, to date somebody, to start to really build a relationship, you need to ask questions. You need to hang out with them. When was the last time you went to the movies alone? When was the last time you went and ate dinner and sat down at the restaurant alone?
I never realized like how uncommon that is to go, until I started paying attention to that, to go out to a restaurant and eat by yourself. Like it's so uncommon because people are scared of it. People won't go out in public by themselves. And it's so uncommon to do that. It's weird. Like I was shocked when I started paying attention to that. So yeah.
It's like just go on a date night by yourself. Go take yourself to the movie, go to the dinner, like enjoy a dopamine detox, but hang out with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you have your best ideas and your most motivation when you're in silence. Like and you think about it, it's like, why do your best ideas come from when you're in the shower? You're just yourself, taking care of yourself, sitting in silence unless you have music going. But you have music.
I was gonna say, how many people are filling that time with stuff too?
Yeah. And maybe you're not super creative in the shower, but are you playing music? Maybe that's why. Stop your music. Just be comfortable with yourself. So that's also going back to the dopamine detox. When I was very like in those points where I didn't have anything going on and I didn't have my phone, I just had to sit with my thoughts. That's when my best ideas would come.
I love that.
So it's cool.
Are you creating anything right now that you're excited to, that have come from your like dopamine detox or slowness?
Yes. So we've got some really, really cool things and I'm excited. I've talked a little bit about it, but I'm launching a podcast, which will be super exciting, to kind of talk about more of self-development and entrepreneurship and family and relationships and things like that. 2 other hosts that will be is Isabel Call and Jaden Tuyer. We're super excited to be with them. Izzy was just on your podcast, and Jaden, I don't know if I can announce that, but
he'll be on.
Jaden will be on soon. So that will be fun. Launching a few events to help these kids, and then Love Hard, just going all in on that right now. So.
Man, you telling me about Love Hard, I want to just like go donate money to it now. That's amazing. Yeah. And again, I mean, it goes back to my story. Most of my limiting beliefs started when my parents were divorced. I had a perfect lifestyle from a kid's perspective.
Yep.
I had a really good lifestyle. Yeah. My playroom was bigger than this studio.
Yeah.
I was in a good place, with my family, and I thought they were in love, and one day everything changed, and that's where it's like I can only rely on myself. I'd be lying if I said that I still don't follow this one once in a while.
Yeah, right.
I just know that when I commit to do something, I get it done. And to have to rely on somebody else, I have to trust somebody else. Yeah. And I'm not saying that that's healthy by any means. It's been a driver for my life.
Yeah.
But it's like, this to this? Like, I definitely can only rely on me.
Absolutely. I like that you bring up that point where it's like, you have to rely on yourself, but at the same time, when you become a leader, you have to be able to balance that. Like, if you start a company and you have employees under you, you can't do all the work. You have to mitigate. You have to delegate work to them and be able to trust them. And I think the biggest compliment that I can get as a leader is that I was able to train someone to be a better leader than I was. So like I've ran companies before, and I ran restaurants before and stuff. And when I have someone that is able to grow as a leader within or under me and is able to take that leadership and go be something bigger somewhere else, that's the biggest compliment a leader can get.
Isn't that crazy?
So, yeah, it's awesome. But a lot of leaders are scared. They have that scarcity mentality. It's like, if my best player leaves, I'm going to be screwed. It's like, well, no, if you're a really good leader, then all your other employees are going to be really, really good as well. So that should be the best compliment you can get.
And that's the thing, is that's something I know I definitely need to transform, because if I want to get to the next level of entrepreneurship, I'm going to have to hire out and delegate. And even running your own household. By the way, running your house is a business. Yeah. Experiencing that has been true. You have a lot more responsibilities. Yeah. There's things that come up that are unexpected. A snowstorm, you have to shovel your driveway. Like, if you're not a business owner, then just relate it to your own house. Yeah. It's easier to run it when you have kids, or not always. but when they're old enough to help out around the house, or when you hire somebody to cook your food, or whatever the case is. Well, seriously, man, this has been absolutely amazing. And again, the vulnerability, the power you bring, the energy, it's just, everybody's going to be impacted by this. Yeah. From a young adult to a teenager to honestly a 90-year-old that hasn't been vulnerable, said their apologies before they're about to pass away. So really, thank you.
Thank you.
Now with that in mind, how can I serve you? How can they serve you?
Yeah. The first thing I would say is just be kind to other people. And then, like you said be vulnerable, like vulnerability, and me having vulnerability. Be more vulnerable with people. Be more relatable to people, because when you're not vulnerable, you don't seem relatable. And then the two other things is follow my Instagram. It's _ Alex Marchant _ so _ AlexMarchant _ I'd love to connect. Message me. Anything I can do for you guys, I would love. And then also follow Love Hard as well. So it's love.hard143 on Instagram.
Amazing. So is there, like, I know you're a big ambassador on that charity. Is there a way that they could donate or support that charity? Yeah.
So in the link of that bio, there's the website that you can go onto, so you can read all about it, and then you can donate through there. You can buy merch through there. And then we can also connect through there if you want to get even more involved. So
cool. Yeah. I really appreciate that. Yeah. With that in mind, there's one last question I ask everybody.
Okay, let's do it.
What's the definition of a prosperous life to you?
I love this question. So I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been listening to your podcast, and I'm like, how would I answer that? I looked up the definition on Google, and what it says a materialistic success in materialistic things. And I think that it can partially be true, but I think it's even beyond that. I almost think you're living a life in your flow state. When you're living prosperous life, you're living a life that you're in the flow of things. You're you have success in the materialistic things like that you want, but you also have success in the emotional stuff, and you're thriving. You're living a life that you're thriving, and like I said, you're in your flow state. That's how I would answer that.
I absolutely love that. When you're in flow state, you're creating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Authentically. Yeah. Most importantly.
Absolutely.
I love that. So is there anything else that you'd love to share with the world?
I don't think so. Just let's connect. I'd love to see everyone that's listening to this and connect and see how I can help you guys, and let's change the world together, one step at a time.
Amen to that.
So, let's go.
With that in mind, you guys, thank you so much for joining in today. And truly, thank you again, Alex. And this is the end of 2022. And I'm always in the spirit of giving and helping. Yeah. But even more at the end of this year and beginning of the year. This is the time when people set new goals and unfortunately fail on a lot of their goals. Yeah. They quit. Yeah. So seriously, DM me the word coach. I would love to gift anybody interested in establishing a vision for life, creating those next steps. I would love to support you in that. A gift from me to you, no charge. With that in mind, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.